Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown and you lose it?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy. Darling. Light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
I was going to come blasting at you with something. I'm so offended at myself that I haven't seen fucking Infinity Pool yet.
I know, you hack.
I know. I was like, so I was watching Possessor, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Like,
I mean, you're not, this Possessor is superior, if I dare say so.
I've heard that. I mean, like Mia Goth and like Brandon Cronenberg for what he's doing now, I'm like, I need to see Infinity Pool. So,
I mean, I do like Brandon, and I like what he's doing, but I was thinking about this all day today, and Nepo baby, that's a real popular term right now. It's a real buzzword. Everybody's, loves dancing around that and getting offended for some reason. Like nepotism hasn't existed forever.
The dawn of time, literally.
That everything that exists, period. But it's like, I'm trying to think like Brandon Cronenberg is doing what his papa did. And then I was like, oh, fucking Clint Eastwood's, what's his son? Brandon Eastwood. He's doing, I don't know, I can't remember his name right now, but his first thing
it's
was
like Jake Eastwood or some shit.
Yeah, whatever like that. Yeah. And so it's like he started out with a Western.
You know what?
Kind of like, that's cute.
I always get mixed up. So Brandon Cronenberg, I thought he did this other movie, Surveillance, but that's another Nepo baby. That's David Lynch's daughter, Jennifer Lynch, directed that movie. That's another one. And it's very Lynchian. And this is very Cronenbergian. So it's in the family. It's in the family.
It really is. And then I was thinking also fucking George A. Romero's son wrote zombie comics. That's how we got started.
So it's the way to be.
Oh man.
This is
it's Nepo all the way down, man.
Oh yeah. If I ever somehow got fucking famous, obviously I'm going to make it happen for my kids. So why wouldn't you? If I can.
When our podcast, when it pops off and it blows up, and then we have to make Emmeline's gonna have to we're forcing her. She's like, I don't want to do that. I want to sing. And you're like, no, you gotta talk into a microphone.
You're talking about movies forever.
Gotta keep the film club going.
I know who's gonna take over it after I die. So anyway, film club.
Of death.
This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi. That's Jordan. Our brains are rotten from all the horror movies we've been fucking watching this month.
I know, it's like not enough. I've been working on the Fall of the House of Usher. It's like I'm consuming all this.
I've been watching like kids horror movies with my daughter.
Oh, nice.
So, and I've keep forgetting to put them on Letterboxd, but we just finished Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Wallace and Gromit last night.
Oh, dude, classic.
So much better than I remember. Like it's so good. Like it's so well written, actually. Then obviously Aardman, man, like I'm getting excited for their new
Chicken Run.
They're doing like a Chicken Run sequel or whatever, right? Chicken pot pie or something. But that's for another day. Today we're horror movies, and obviously, if you've gathered, we're talking about Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor, right?
Yeah, which I thought that was his debut. I thought this was his first movie, but it is not.
Right, this is his sophomore effort, yeah.
Yeah, it's his second one. And so it's like, I think that he's getting better. Like Infinity Pool, I think we're not here to talk about Infinity Pool. I'll just sum it up that it's a little too like predictable. And that's, I don't know, that's about it. It's like, it's frustrating. He gets great performances, and I love his like body horror work. And I like his, like, he does what his dad does, where it's like the narrative, it's like unreliable. You're like kind of confused the whole time on like what the like main character's like motives are, but like it's done well. I appreciate that.
It's gonna be hard not to compare him to his dad. Let's just get out of the way though.
He's doing what he's but that's the thing.
That's the thing. This is such a he's just fucking Cronenberging his ass off, because this Possessor is such a like you know that fucking Dave Cronenberg just shed a single tear when he watched it. He's just like, "That's my boy."
Yeah, really though. Yeah,
because it is like this is definitely something he would have made.
I mean, it makes me nervous though. I feel like Brandon's like in the room, and he's drawing with crayons, and like his dad comes over and looks over his shoulder, and he's like, "Oh, you want to do that, son? You don't you want to follow in my footsteps? You want to make those masks a little more flaccid, or
yeah? Can we get a droopier mask, please?"
Yeah, he's like, "Can you make that mask? Can you make that mask look a little bit more saggy and organic than you want?" He's like, "No, Dad, I want to make angular lines. I want to make things look like machinery." And he's like, "No, not machinery. You make it goopy."
It's got give me the goop. I feel like it's actually kind of the opposite, where it's like Cronenberg quit making goopy movies for so long. He was doing like fucking History of Violence and all those other kind of shit. And so Brandon Cronenberg, he's like, "I'm going to pick up my dad's mantle." And then Possessor came out and everyone was like, "Wow, that's pretty good." He's like carrying the legacy. And then so David Cronenberg's like, hey, now, don't be fucking stepping on your daddy's toes. I'm still the king. And then he did Crimes of the Future, right? To be like, I'm still weird. I'm goopy.
I'll goop it.
I'll goop it with the rest of them, man. I'll fucking umbilical you right in the butt. Go listen to that episode.
God, I love that. Yeah, dude, that was great.
Existence. Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, this movie, Possessor. So let's back it up. Let's do a quick synopsis and then a quick like first impressions. Is it your week?
Sure. Yeah, it's my week.
You wrote one, obviously, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it right here. Let me.
Ever the professionals.
Shuffle my papers and here it goes. So, this movie Possessor is a 2020 film, which we'll have to talk about that a little bit for COVID got in the way. But Possessor takes place in I actually don't even know if they say a time period, but some undescript near future. Could
be now. And it's one of those things where it's like this is tomorrow. You know what I mean?
And that's definitely like a David Cronenberg thing. But anyways. It's set in some sort of alternate future, and Voss is our main character, and she kind of jacks into people's brains to perform assassinations or other tasks that high bidders pay for, and it's a real secretive team that uses kind of like organic machinery to get
shady
tap into
fucking assassination.
And it's like assassinations are mainly, that's kind of like that's probably their main focus is doing assassinations.
It must be their bread and butter because the host is essentially got to die. You know what I mean? So
right. Oh, exactly. Yeah, and that's typically how it works. And so we open where you're in the middle of a job, and this woman, Polly is her name. She comes up and she does an assassination, and then she gets a pistol out and she's like, "Pull me out!" And she's supposed to kill herself. And you can see that like she's actively nervous and she doesn't do it. And then the cops come in and kill her. And then we open up and Voss is there on the table, and she goes through this debriefing, and the debriefing is like a set of it's very like fucking Blade Runner style, where it's like to make sure that your mind is correct, you still are you go through a bunch of objects and you have to express what the objects are and explain their significance to you, and if it's not an object that belongs to you, you say that and you pass the test and she's fine to go. Well, Voss goes to her like estranged husband and son, and like she's acting very odd. She's like repeating a lot of phrases. She's doing like a Dahmer.
She's like losing touch with her humanity and who she is because of like her job is. She spends so much of her time being other people.
Yeah, because it's like later we find that like that's so she's with her kids and family. You can tell that's tense and awkward. And then she gets another. This whole movie is like one last job, and so she gets a new job, and the job like it puts her into Colin Tate, who is new boyfriends with this like really rich woman. And they work in tech.
The daughter of like the CEO of like a data mining company.
Yeah, this huge like tech company, and they want to make it a murder suicide. where Voss is playing Colin, and there's a dinner party, and so Colin is supposed to murder the dad and the daughter, and then himself, which is Voss is puppeting him. And you stay with Colin for like a full day before he goes to the dinner party, and like he goes to work, and you find out that he works like data mining is like literally people putting on VR headsets and then watching people's webcams, and then they're mining things. He's working in blinds and drapes, and so he just has to talk about it, and it's like that's super fascinating. I love that like that little detail, and it's cool. But anyways,
it's like the dystopian Big Brother vibe that like encompasses this world, which is also kind of how we live in real life, which is one of the interesting parallels.
But we have like instead of human beings physically
AI.
watching different videos, it's AI that does. A human being programmed something that said, "Hey, when you find an image that looks like this, catalog it." But anyways, so Colin does his job, and he's acting weird. He's supposed to act irate because he was like an ex drug dealer, and he's with the girl. I can't remember her name. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But he's with her, and she's like, "Oh, you're acting so weird. You seem weird." And then he's like, "Oh, it's no big deal, whatever." And they go to the party, and he can get comms through it. So it's like Voss can hear people talking to her because she in the contraption that she's in, and so she's like getting like fed commands by Girder, who's the Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, who's like she's like the head of it, and she's like feeding her things to do, so she has to get in a fight and get kicked out of the party. She gets kicked out of the party, she comes back, and she's calling it this whole time. So Colin technically comes back and uses like, and you can see it's kind of cool. It's like Voss is like, she doesn't like using a pistol, so she's given a gun, and that's supposed to be her mission is just shoot everybody and kill them. But she's like violent. She really likes it.
Yeah.
She takes pleasure in killing people. So she gets a fire poker and starts like beating Sean Bean with it, and like she that was like the coolest part of this one. Like she puts it right in his mouth, and it's like his teeth are prying out, and it's just like it's brutal.
No, we're gonna have to get in that because her character, man, is an interesting one. It's just like her, her psychology around like the whole thing.
Exactly. Oh no, we'll get into it more. But anyways, violently attacks Sean Bean's character, who's the tech daddy, and he kills the daughter. And then he's supposed to kill himself. Voss is supposed to kill herself, but Colin takes over. So it's that kind of like the inner minds are battling each other, and Colin's like, I'm the true host. I got to take over. And there's a really cool scene where like it's just this like cacophony of different images, going through, and like he puts on her like skin.
They do a really good job of visually representing of like this internal struggle of like power of who's in control of the consciousness. It actually sort of reminded me of when I first watched it of like Get Out a little bit, where it's like the little bit of the brain still can kind of come through of the other personality. That they're kind of like two bodies, two minds sharing a body.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot though. Voss's company that she works for that does this, it's kind of cool. They actually like intercept the person. So Colin, before he got intercepted and then had like a brain. He had like a brain implant put in so that so that they could jack into him. And it's like it's kind of cool that it's like
and it's like an organic. It like dissolves too. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's cool. But
well, that's how he damages it. Colin gets a little bit of control, damages the brain chip, and that's what allows him to kind of. Then he's running the ship for a while.
Yeah, and
on the run,
and he does. It's like so like that. That's kind of the part where I got a little lost in the sauce. Like so Colin's having these like fucked up visions, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he's running from the cops or whatever, running from the drama. And he ends up at Voss's husband and son's house, and he's there, and he's just like he's acting weird, and he doesn't really know what to do. And then it's like Voss is taking control again of him at points, and so
Voss has got a little bit of control,
and
because it's like they have more of a struggle, like when the other guy comes in to re-put Voss back in the driver's seat, essentially. And,
that's right.
But then there's
I forgot about that whole scene. Yeah.
But then there's like still the internal struggle because at that point it's like Colin, like most people I would imagine, don't have this kind of interactions when they're quote unquote possessed or whatever by Voss or any of these people. But since there is this back and forth, it's like she's weakened and he's stronger, and so there's like this constant type struggle.
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
goes into her subconscious and flips the fucking script on her and learns where her husband lives and goes there to try and be like, what's happening to me? I'm gonna go to something in your life.
That's his bargaining chip. As he shows up and he's like, I'll kill your husband and your son. Get out of my head. You know,
Fix this.
Figures out,
fix it somehow.
Change, right. Like make this go away. And then twist of fate. Spoiler alert. Obviously, this whole podcast is a spoiler alert. We've been doing this for 130 episodes, but the twist of fate is the sun comes down, kills them. Then he shoots them, and it's cool because what they do is they do the whole who actually shot her son. Was it Voss or was it Colin? The kid dies, and right when the kid gets shot, he's like, "Pull me out," and you're like, "Oh damn!" And then it opens up, and it's Girder, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, and she was the son. She was, she became the son, which implies that maybe that son has been in a plant for a really long time, or like they've done that before in the past, because I don't know how long the chip lasts. Anyway,
I think
that was interesting, but that's how it ends. And then then Voss is happy with her life, and she is going to continue working there, and
Yeah, I feel like on the good job. Yeah, I feel like on my second. So this was my second watch, and it made it made much more sense to me. That ending made much more sense to me on the second time, where it's like I definitely feel like Jennifer Jason Leigh's character like must have got after her son as like kind of a last ditch effort to kill two birds with one stone, deal with this Colin situation, but also force Voss to cut off her family finally, which is like her biggest thing in the movie is that she's hanging on to her humanity. And that's what showed in the butterfly scene at the end when she's like, finally, she doesn't say anything else about it. And so she's full blown. It's kind of sad because that's her biggest weakness is she's still got this like sliver. They even explain as like a fracture to her real life that's stopping her from like having complete and total control. And she can't kill herself is part of the reason why that.
Right.
But then once they die, it's like she's full sociopath, like full like.
It's great. No, yeah, it's totally. This is like
brutal.
A great
yeah.
movie, like, making a sleeper agent and like truly like it's like you don't know, that there's some part of her that is like Voss is like happy to do this because it makes like Girder happy, like it they have like such a connection that like
because of the like
and she's like broken up with Michael, so it's like she's not with her husband anymore, and so I feel like she's like distanced, and then it's kind of that like classic throwing yourself into your job. She just like went deep, but
and it's like Girder and Voss have like this relationship that's like more than employer-employee. It's like mentor-mentee and like therapist-patient. You know what I mean? Which I think is fascinating because like they even are like, we had sessions, like she touches her, like obviously she knows her most intimate thoughts. And of course she would. They're dealing with the the world of fucking your mind and your persona is going inside. So it's like it makes sense that she has like kind of like it's like she's priming her to be the next version of her, all this. And Voss wants to, but she's still clinging on, man. And so she fucking shoots her kid in the head.
And it's like brutal. It's like it'd be cool to have Girder. I mean,
she definitely
It's not a movie. Oh, right. Yeah, I think
Voss,
she was. Oh yeah, sure. Voss killed her son.
Yeah.
Like it was. Yeah, it wasn't Colin. No, I
think Colin pulled the first shot out of surprise, and then Voss finished it off out of like a
There's that.
We've already.
I mean, clearly there's that like, the pause. That it's like she gets to make the decision, and so she chooses to do it. And it's like it's cool because it is like most of the time it's like it kind of subverts the trope of like you do this for your family and like how to do it. Like the whole time, like towards the end when Colin starts taking over, I was like, kill the kid, because the whole time I was like, I know they're gonna kill that child, and then they did, and it was brutal.
It was brutal.
Yeah, and then it was very beautiful. That blood. That's the one thing.
The blood, dude. The blood in this is so good.
I'm going to give Brandon Cronenberg something over David is his blood is a million times better.
I'm
like, it's
I'm
crazy how
convinced
beautiful it is.
he used real blood in a couple scenes, like pig's blood or something. Because
Dude, yeah.
the first scene when she's that one chick and she stabs that guy to death, and then she like rubs her hand in the blood, and it's like the extreme close up of her like rubbing her fingers all over the blood, and I'm like,
really could be.
that's real blood, dude. There's no way that looks so
It looks
too
so
real,
good, dude.
Too
and like
real.
the blood in the neck, like how it just comes out.
That's
slowly,
kinda-
and it's like
This movie's
spurts
just so
beautifully.
visceral and uncomfortably intimate, man. Like, it's just
Dude,
everything is so close and
we
so
watched-
soft.
No, it's wild. This is what's so wild. This movie, we watched. I'm assuming you watched the same version that you put it on Plex.
Correct.
Go to our Patreon. You can check
Get
out
in our
But
Plex.
anyway, that was the unedited version. So that was an hour and 44 minutes.
Barely, dude. I've seen
and
both
the-
versions.
The theatrical version, though, there are like the scenes that are in it because the theatrical version's only 140. So it like
No,
it
it's
takes out-
143, dude. It's 1 minute difference.
Oh, it's only 1 minute. Oh, I thought it was 4 minutes. But
1
still,
minute.
I mean, one. Okay, so then 1 minute probably doesn't really change that.
No,
much.
I've
I
seen
wonder what the-
I've seen both versions, and after I watched this last night, I had to go look up the differences because they seemed, other than like 2 shots, it seemed identical to me.
So,
like
probably-
the
it probably
theatrical
was.
version was still just as fucking violent. Like it was so violent,
Cool.
the theatrical version. Because I watched
But
it right when it came out. I watched it originally, and I really liked it. I thought it was really cool and really intense and brutal. And then so rewatching it, it wasn't until like last year that the unedited, the official, like this is the one the unsullied version that they released. And so I like, oh, obviously if we're rewatching it, I want to watch that version, right? So we watched that version, and it's not that much different. Like there's literally probably like 3 extra shots, and
Okay.
it's like
Well, I think it's probably in the all the. I don't even know I don't know what you call the scene when it's just all the mashup and like the world bending and breaking apart. You know that all that like. I don't know what that is. That like psychological montage of kind of depravity and then them mind melding and stuff. Anyways, they do that like twice in this, and that the one scene when he is in the bedroom and then like they're having sex together and it's like she's like got a penis and it's like that really like trippy surreal.
that shot is the one for sure. That
like-
wasn't in the
I
original
know that.
cut.
I know that's not in the original cut because that was the one. That was like the one thing that Brandon Cronenberg said. Like he was like, "This is what I like envisioned it," and so they like everyone on set was like really down for it. And it was like the one that I remember got cut because it was like going to be NC-17.
Well, they don't
which is
like
really
erect penises, which it's like they're showing.
Yeah.
Like, because that, when they're watching the data mining of basically that girl and her fucking spread pussy
yeah.
and his big hard cock, they cut, that wasn't in it. And then, like,
I
one
assumed.
or 2 shots of the extreme close ups of the violence for like a
yeah.
split second is like the only difference.
But I think that I loved it. I loved.
Oh,
that,
yeah,
like,
it added.
I loved,
well,
like,
the scene.
the sexuality made it very like it's weird. It like made it intimate, but kind of like inappropriate.
Well,
Like,
and
I felt like I shouldn't be.
Well, it
in
made it
that
personal
scene, like,
to
I should
her
be
to her
personal.
character because like I'm really glad because that scene, it does feel like it's kind of building to that shot. Like it's kind of uncomfortable because it is like this weird like she's like losing her identity and like is kind of getting invested in this and is connecting it with like sex and violence and power, and she's literally like it's like cutting as she's penetrating this girl to the fucking knife going into this guy's neck all in slow motion.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's this like wires in her head. And so that shot really is kind of like the climax of that scene. And it doesn't really, it does really add to like the uneasiness, the surrealness, and her character. So without it, I think that scene is kind of bland. So I'm glad that it works. Everything else, it was just as violent. This movie was still always horrifically violent. It starts off so brutal when she just fucking stabs the shit out of that guy like 100 times and then
That's
gets
what's great is,
shot
like, this is like
to death so hard.
yeah, and like it's like the stabbing like is so realistic, and then the at the end there's the meat cleaver scene, and it's just like it just goes on just long enough that you're like, oh fuck, it's like it feels so real. You're like, this is that like you kind of lose control and you've like you've just gone manic and you're like.
Well, the like types of violence like we talked about Green Room recently, where it's like that shows like really intense violence in short bursts. This is definitely revels in it a little bit more, but it is also like really realistic and really raw. and the sound design, but it's just like during the meat cleaver scene where it's like it cuts to his fingers and they're slowly like unfurling.
Oh my god, unfurling,
so good,
so cool,
so good.
Yeah, dude. I was thinking, I'm like, that'd be a sick tattoo.
Just like the fingers, yeah.
like the fingers,
That would actually be a sick tattoo. But yeah, man, I don't know. I like this. I really liked it the first time I watched it, but I liked it so much more the second time.
And it's a million times better than the reason Infinity Pool kind of sucks is like it follows way too many people, and it tried to be like it's weird. He should just stick with like the psychological aspect of a human being.
It looked like kind of a social, like a social commentary type of thing.
Yeah,
which I still want to. I still plan on very much seeing it.
I mean, I highly recommend it. It like what bums me out is like the whole. I mean, I don't know if you know in the trailer how they talk about it. It like seems weird, right? There's like I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so just go watch it, and then I'll explain like kind of what I expected, and then they didn't do anything that I expected. So, and I was disappointed, but
yeah.
So kind of my bad too, a little bit for coming in with different expectations, but
it'll probably be better on a rewatch, honestly, because that's like a lot of times that's how when you feel like they didn't go the way you kind of hoped it would go, and not even like expected from hype, but like as you're watching it, you're like, oh, cool, and then it goes a different route, and you're like, that's not as cool. But those are movies I think that do best on rewatches because then you and then you're like, okay, I can appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, I can.
But
experience.
I've heard that this one is definitely more punchier and better, and it's because it's so intimate, man. It's fucking intimate.
Super sleek. Yeah, right. It's so like it just moves. The entire thing is constantly moving, but then like you get just like a breath enough at times, and it just like I love having like an unreliable narrator. I like the whole time where you're not exactly sure who's in control and what's gonna happen next, but like. You're kind of like, well, logically, this has to happen because, like, Colin, he's freaking out, and so he's going to go somewhere, and like, and Colin's kind of like already a fish out of water in this society. He went from just like a lowly drug dealer to like getting into like basically whatever tech royalty, and so and like the dad, Sean Bean's such a good actor, like he's so cool,
and he's such a fucking douchebag. He's so good in this.
He plays
that
part so good. Dude, when his teeth get bottle opened, like, oh my god, it was beautiful.
The sound design. So like that was one of my biggest takeaways on this rewatch because it's like I had always that scene especially like they got that teeth grinding sound. It's so brutal and it like pops his teeth out. And bottle opening's a good way to put it for sure. But I listened to it. I've been watching all these movies this month with headphones in my office.
Oh, nice.
And so I watched this movie with headphones, and the sound design is on another level, like so much better than I thought it was because I watched it on my shitty TV last time I watched it, and all the violence. It's like it shows you all the violence, but it's made so much worse. Like they could cut out some of the violence, and it would still be horrific because the sound design is so effective. It's just like, and it's like grinding on bones and shit, and like even the really quiet moments, like that's the thing I really appreciate more about this movie. It's just like. There's so many details of like, and it's not like, oh, that's a detail to like a twist or a plot. It's just like when she's in Colin's body, she's like taking everything in. Like one thing I noticed on this rewatch, when Voss is in Colin's body and he's like taking in the apartment and everything, he like picks up his fiance's like dirty underwear and is like examining it. And it's like it actually is. Dirty underwear, just like regular woman's dirty underwear. It's not and you could like, because everything in this movie is like, the cinematography is like so many close-ups, so soft, and it's just like so many small details like that, like the little hyper close-up of her like imagining that like thing floating, all that.
Right. I love how that's like just enough. It's weird because I kind of like wanted more of it, but it was just enough to see like. That's a fracture, that is part of her like losing touch with the reality a little bit, and that's great. It's like I know what you're saying. I love that.
And the fact that it's something so small, it takes in her full attention, like she can't ignore it, but in the scene too, it's just like it's there, and then it's like extreme close up, and it's taking all of her. And she grabs it, and then it's gone. You know what I mean? It's just like it just really shows like Yeah, it's the fracture. It's the focus. You know what I mean? It's like it's bringing her out of it. And then, like, literally, she's got people talking in her ear, doing the job. At the same time, her, fucking handler's talking to her. Like, it's just this whole weird disconnect. It's like even the way she's shot when she's in her real body, she's always framed to the side of the camera. That she's never quite present. You know what I mean? As herself, which is like she's more comfortable when she's just being someone else, and getting off on violence.
I know, dude. That was like that's a detail that I like too. Is like it shows like right from the beginning you don't quite understand and the I think it's like the flood of emotion, because she like jacks in and the calibration. I'm assuming that's like a little thing she can do to just kind of make sure she's still in control of the host. She's the main host. But it's like every time she does that, it's like she like cries but it's not even like it's crying, but it's like not cathartic. It's like she's holding it in and like trying not to crack, and then she just cries, and it's like it's great. And like I wonder if that's kind of like the Get Out version where they she's fighting the person, she's fighting the host or whatever.
That's definitely
the main body.
It's definitely what I get when the main body, like every time she goes to kill herself, that's like the main body's like their deepest survival instinct.
Yeah,
it's like because the girl at the beginning, which that girl, man, who she was like not in it very much, but she fucking killed it performance wise, because it's just like she puts the gun in her mouth and it's just like this huge range of emotions, and she just like can't do it, and then she finally is like suicide by cop, And
I know, right.
I don't know. It's so good. I really love this movie on a second rewatch. First time I really liked it. Second time I really loved it. I really like it a lot.
Dude, yeah, you should hear these. I love the hashtags for this movie are body horror, questioning sanity, lack of empathy, choking during sex, looking at oneself in a mirror.
Yeah, there's some
like,
mirror.
Classic.
Effective mirror
work
looking.
in this
Oh,
guy.
yeah, bud.
Yeah, there's some good mirror work in this guy. I love when he first becomes Colin and she like goes in and she's just like looking at that shaft. And
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there, man. Well, that's exactly what you got to do when you're in a new body.
It's true. Yeah, man. You reminded me. So what's your favorite scene, do you think? We quit doing that kind of, but
I know, right? We don't really
But
get
you
into the
reminded
favorite part,
me when you're talking about the calibrating that it's just like the scene, like there's a lot of shit that's disturbing and like unsettling, but like the scene where Collins gets the upper hand, the other guy comes and is like kind of trying to recalibrate her manually with his like old dusty equipment, and it's like the click on click off of like inside her mind, and like it goes all red every time he clicks it, and then like Colin like walks in as like his personality's like coming forward. I mean, that shot, that sequence is so haunting to me. Like I forgot about it. I got like when you first see him walk through the frame and then it cuts and then it comes back and he's there. Like it just gets me every time. I love that. I wanted to go back and rewatch that because I fucking love that sequence.
Right. I really do like all the like psychotropic stuff, whatever.
It was really creative in camera type shit, which was fucking dope.
I loved this isn't necessarily a scene. I know that's what, oh my God, that's what, dude, that's like, oh, like there's like barely any CG. There's CG to clean some stuff up and take some effects out. But like beyond that, they didn't really use CG to create any of the.
Oh, it's crazy in camera work, fucking
all camera work,
really good prosthetic.
Like, they literally just used like Photoshop to touch up the photos, but like they didn't. It's all shot in.
It's like the wax,
like the plastic
figures melting away.
When the face, the wax figures melting away when the face pops in. It's like all that stuff is beautiful. Like that's the body horror that I'm there for.
That face pop scares me, dude, because it's just like it's seamless.
That's what Brandon. That's what Brandon is doing. Is he's a zoomer, man. He's coming in with it, and he's making it a little different. He's putting his own twist on it, so it's not as goopy. And so it's like I think that's what's kind of hard. It's like if I didn't know this wasn't, if it's like the whole nepotism and stuff makes me like want to compare him to his dad, but I really shouldn't, because it's like he holds up on his own. I really like it.
Yeah, if I didn't know, Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg, if I just saw this movie and had no idea, I wouldn't be any less impressed. You know what I mean? I would still, and I might not even though it does feel kind of Cronenbergian. Not in the same way, though. You're right. Like, it's not like with these weird deformations, because everything that's super odd is like this way to visually show
like,
the internal struggle, right? And it's like everything else that's happening, like the whole masks and their like faces being melted together and it like breaks apart. Like, that's all an interesting way to show this internal conflict. But everything that's happening in the real world is just this grinding, visceral, close up, fucking disturbing, but like kind of sexy violence. Like, I don't know what it is, man. It's
that's what I'm saying. It's not my favorite scene, but I think when she's like a really good agent, like when she becomes Colin, she like it's like she gets her like briefing, and I think that scene's really beautiful when like she's getting the briefing and they're standing in the projector, you know, and it's like it just like looks beautiful, like where they're standing, and I don't know, that's kind of cool. It's like a little touch, but when she like is Colin and like she's like playing it out, and so people are like, you're acting kind of strange today, and like I think she's kind of like breaking a little bit, you know, and it's like kind of weird. It was like that part, it like intrigued me, and I'm sure on a second rewatch I'll kind of get more of it, but what I got I really enjoyed, like when they go and they're doing coke and he's like looking at the picture and he's like, who is this? And like you can tell like she's like breaking a little bit, and it's like it's those little details.
It works like for what she's doing as an agent to try and destabilize, like, sell the narrative that he's losing it.
Sell the narrative that he's losing it, so that. But like, it's so funny because the only people who would know, I guess, are like peripheral people, like her friends might be like, yeah, he was acting weird that day when we were partying or something. You know, it's like it's weird. It's like
it is her.
But he plans on killing everybody who's like closest to him, so it's kind of interesting, like. You know, but it's cool that you would build that.
And it's like her struggle, because it's like she's having all these weird moments, and then Jennifer Jason Leigh's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Everything's normal, like it's totally good, everything's great." And it's like, but we know that it's just like she's kind of having a hard time with it, and it's like, I don't know, it's just this weird disconnect and this like loss of identity, and that's what this whole movie ends up being about. It's like this very much about like identity, and then the loss of it, like she loses everything that makes her boss. She's just a killer now, you know what I mean?
Well, right, and I think it's like it's less than maybe even not. I don't think it's loss of identity for me personally. I took this in as like
becoming
finally,
her true, becoming
her
true
right. She like
internal self or whatever. But.
Yeah, right. And it is like you said, the mentor mentee. It's kind of sad because now it's like she has become the like whatever the master. You know, she like because her the girl was like Jennifer Jason Leigh the whole time was like, oh man, back in the day I used to be so great, you know, and now you are my prodigy, like you're gonna be.
And she's a little off.
She's like proud about it almost, like now or whatever. Like wants to be.
She is like the mentor.
Best. Yeah,
the best, and like has the standard, and like even the one guy who comes to programmers like, I've heard so much about you. You're the fucking. Yeah. I can't believe I'm actually meeting you.
Well, and so I'm excited because there's supposed to be a sequel.
Good, because the world building is really good.
Right, and the world, and like you could live in I could live in this world again. So
100%. Like it seems like there could be a lot of stories told through that. Like I wouldn't even want to see necessarily Voss's story. I want to see a totally different
I would
Possessor,
like her to just
something with the company. Yeah. Like we could learn a little bit more about like the company and like something that happens there. Another type of assassin.
They're just a secret company.
They're just some shady
they don't have a name,
fucking organization, man.
I bet somewhere there's like an insignia or some sort of like, some sort of branding of the name.
There definitely is in the building that she comes out of at the beginning, but it's just like I feel like that's not like a set office. They seem like the kind of place that would move around. You know what I mean? Like they just rent out a floor and just fucking do it, just so secretive.
I think the face mask that's very Cronenberg. I would have definitely watching this movie. I would have been like, oh, that takes from Cronenberg hardcore.
Yeah, the big one, like I said, is like when their faces were like melted together and it like breaks away like a fucking piece of peanut brittle. She's like, and she's like,
totally.
And he's like, no, I'm me. Don't kill me. And he stabs his brain chip, which is dope. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. So I like the approach because it's like. It's a possession movie, obviously Possessor, and I think that's also kind of what was so interesting about Get Out is it took this like idea of possession of someone else's body, and that's like what's so deeply unsettling is like when you aren't you anymore, and someone else just basically takes over who you are, possesses you, and it's not some devil, it's not some demon, it's not some fucking ghost. It's, it's got this like sci-fi, the science spin on it that makes it,
the science
that makes it
part
so
is
cool. And it's like, I know how hard you are for like this lo-fi sci-fi and like the aesthetic of the like
that's what I'm saying. This
the
world
chamber of she's got like the lean-to nice plush couch so she can like whisper in her ear all like
right. Like it almost seems like it's like that's what's so great is when you make it, it's like that whatever that like the futurism of that like the 50s or 60s. Like it seems so that like that piece of furniture seems like it was built in like 1960. But it's supposed to be. This is like 20, 50. Yeah. Like it's. Like,
I know.
This is supposed to be.
I get kind of jealous watching it because I'm like, oh, this is what I would have done with Dreamer if I was cool and had money.
I know.
Like,
I know, right? Go check out Dreamer on YouTube. You can. I don't even know. I guess I don't know how you. I don't know how you'd find it.
It's on there somewhere. I'm gonna put it on the Lost Bard channel eventually. But.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Anyway. Did you got a money minute for me? You said you wanted to tell me about that.
I know, yeah. So my little secret is there's no information out there. There's no what happened?
It's your little secret.
This little film of ours here that we're watching, it came out in 2020 and it premiered
if
in
you
like
don't remember
January 20. Yeah, if you weren't around for, if you're 2 years old, you didn't realize you weren't part of something happened worldwide, and we all took a time out.
There's a lot of 60-year-olds that don't want to pretend like it didn't happen. So
I thought you were gonna say there's a lot of 6-year-olds that took a permanent timeout.
that also.
COVID was brutal. We can laugh about it now, but SARS COVID-19 showed up at our doorstep and caused this movie to have like a fucking weird rocky release, and it like did really well it did like critically well in Sundance, but it had such a limited release due to COVID that it technically made $1 million. We'll see what happens when it gets its like, because there's supposed to be like a. I don't know if it's going to be Criterion or whoever gets it. There's going to be a release, and they'll probably make a lot back on that.
Yeah,
there's going to be like a commentary track and all the.
I think this would have made a lot more money because it's like it's sort of niche with how extreme it is. Like if they wouldn't have been so violent, like I think it could have been a little more mainstream. But it's like I'm glad that it stuck to its guns and he stuck to his vision with it. Other than the cuts to make an R rating, I get.
But if I had to guess, because we've been doing Money Minutes now for a long ass time here, and we kind of get the vibe, I wouldn't be surprised if this was made for like $5 million. Like I was
gonna say like 10 tops.
12. Yeah, 12. Yeah, I'm saying like 5 to 12.
Yeah,
it's gonna be. That's my healthy guess. It doesn't have like huge names, and it's not like it literally could all be shot in like one fancy mansion and 2 apartments.
Yeah, it looks great.
Really, like
it's got like the really soft, intimate look, but because of that, it's like there's very little like exteriors. Like what there is like the apartment and then the one office building. Like it's all very close, soft focus. Like spent the money on the fucking whatever the cinematographer they were using.
I think
they had a good crew. Like their money, like
right.
Whatever, however much it costs, they put it in. Like the only way I'd be surprised is if this was like $30 million or something, which there's no way. But
no, that would be like, God, if I come to find out that it was like 26 million or something, I might be a little disappointed. But
yeah, there's no way.
But
dude.
it's like
9. There's no way.
Yeah, right. It has to be. That's why I'm even saying. Like,
I think this movie would have done well because, like you said at the time. They still were trying to figure out how to do like that home release. They kind of now they turn around on fucking, I don't know, for some of you whippersnappers, it used to be like movies in theaters and then, like 9 months later it'll come out on, VHS and DVD or whatever. And or like a year. And now it's like there was still the gap was getting smaller and smaller, but COVID made it where it's like it took them a minute to be like, okay, shit's also premiering on demand,
Right.
or it's like on demand a week later or whatever. But right when this came out, because I watched it, I rented it, I remember, and I watched it because I saw something about it on like Reddit or something, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. And so I was excited to watch it, and I rented it, but I remember it was kind of a pain in the ass because they're like, it was early on where it's like, we don't want to just release this to be at home now, but like, what the fuck else are we going to do? Like, it did take them like Hollywood and like a year to be like, do we just release it? Is it streaming? Do we put it on a streaming platform? Now we have like Amazon Cinema at home, so I think this movie would have done well otherwise, especially if it would have got on some streaming service. So I feel like it got kind of fucking gypped that way on like financially, but obviously critically and audiences loved it. So
right, he got Infinity Pool.
Yeah, financing for that, and like you said, maybe a sequel coming up or whatever. So as long as he gets more work, man, I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm there for it. I'll watch it. Like I've been like, and pleasantly surprised with his work, I guess is what I'll say. Like it's like, so
it's always just good to like have seeing new directors, you know what I mean? Fresh faces. It's like we are starting to get in this new age of like, oh yeah, we got Ari Aster and fucking Edgars and like all these guys.
Well, we got all these like 30-year-old
the
directors
new
now.
The new generation
like
of Cronenberg. Like I want that because for the last 10 years, it's all like a lot of it's been like, I'm looking forward to Tarantino, who's been around for 2 decades, Scorsese, who's been around for literally fucking forever,
50 decades.
Yeah. So it's like, it is nice to see like these new directors kind of coming into, especially as huge horror fans like us, into this space and kind of doing something new with it and like having their own creative voices. And so it's just like, I want him, because we talk about sometimes we're like, oh, I thought this guy was going to be the next big thing. What happened?
Yeah,
I don't want this to be Brendan Cronenberg. I don't want him to make his 4th movie and be like a fucking bomb and then he disappear. I'm rooting for him because it's like, I like how weird they're getting too. Like Bo's afraid with Ari Aster, like he's got the fucking permissions to go off the hook, and it's like I want to keep seeing where Brendan Cronenberg's mind will take us. I want to see what other shit he's got up his sleeve for sure. I got a couple Reddits for you if you can fucking handle it.
I would love to hear from our beautiful Redditors.
So the Parsnipley, who I appreciate when he pokes his voice in there. So Parsnipley says, I just watched this for the second time a couple weeks ago, so I'll skip it today, but it's great. I loved how they depicted the 2 characters fighting over control of the body in interesting and creepy ways. That's the sort of thing that can only really be done in cinema, and I love it. Great horror movie on top of that with an interesting concept and the right amount of gore. Jennifer Jason Leigh rules. Couldn't agree more with all that.
Right.
Every time I watch shit like that's done in such an interesting way, like I write books, and I'm always like, every time I see a movie that's like has moments like that, I'm like, fuck books, man. I want to make movies.
I know,
but it's so hard.
And that's what it is fun to like to see like cinema really did get everything together. It's like you can. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's like.
Well, there's something.
There's different genres,
something to the artistic that does something in your gut. That is like certain sequences in film that can only happen in film that fucking have such an impact on me. Now, obviously, all other film lovers out there, but
all the dimensions that work with film, it's like when it comes together, and that's what that like surreal scenes do. That like it tells everything you need to know in the story with like no dialogue, and that's usually like that's usually when I'm the most impressed in a film. When it's like there's no you don't need dialogue to explain it.
Yeah, they don't dump it on you. It's just very much, and there's so much you can do. The thing that bums me out, it's like I'll try and write a scene in like a book or something, and it's like I feel like I do okay, but it's like there's so many things that can just be said with like, oh look, you know what I mean, like a facial expression or like a music combined with something happening that you can't convey with any other medium, man. That is just difficult, I guess, except for when video games want to be movies, but they just wish they were films.
Even then, it's like even then you lose that momentum when you play a video game. If you don't have the pacing correct, then you lose
Well,
that aspect.
that's a
of
whole
it.
other conversation. But video games are a beautiful art form because of what they bring in with like player interaction. But if you don't combine, if it's just like, I don't know, like you have a cutscene that's basically wants to be a movie and then intercut, like you have to really walk the line to make it be as effective as a film can be. Because a film or like, cinema, like can, if done right, and if you are the kind of person that's susceptible to it, can be like so engrossing once you're really caught up in it and has a flow. Whereas like video games with gameplay, it's hard to like mash them together. Only the greats really can manage to do that, which we are getting more of too. So.
Well, dude, with this month, I think this, you just kind of like, I just thought of like why I love Horrortober so much. And it's because we get to go through such a catalog of film and see like all of it. And especially because horror gets nothing. It's no recognition.
I know.
Yet horror can tell such a good fucking story.
Everything.
And so
it pushes the
like,
boundaries. It can tell any fucking story. Horror's the go.
And and it's there. It's like it's there too. The point of it is to like elicit a very strong emotion, and so some people just can't handle it. And it's like I love it though. I love the stories you can tell, and we've watched so many terrible movies this month, and I love every single one of them.
Same,
like,
yeah. And it's like
for some bit of a reason, it's like once you get into them finite and you talk about that movie alone, there's times where you can be like, I don't like this and this and this, but like in the overall arcing of just film in general, I agree.
And that's the thing with Horrortober. I mean, we spent 20 minutes talking about slashers before we even rolled on the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Because we were trying to define what a slasher even is. So, anyways, we'll definitely bring that up when we do the November wrap up.
It's going to be such a long episode if Pablo comes on.
Dude, Pablo better come on, and I want I'm hoping Victoria will come. It'll be I'm hoping for another roundup here where we get everybody together.
I'll be in one.
Talk about it.
All right, I got one more Reddit. So Clones of People 2 says, first watch, I watched the uncut version and I quite liked this. This felt like a very modern sci-fi with a huge dose of body horror and self-identity. It really reminded me of shows like The Peripheral or Altered Carbon. Both I want to see.
Oh, dude, yeah, Altered Carbon's great.
Yeah, I want to. Peripheral looks good too. There was some really nice cinematography, and the body jump transitions, and later the two people in one body effects were great. Did a great job of shifting the internal identity of the male character at the end. It was understated and seamless. The horror stuff was good too. The gore was intense enough to make me cringe, and the face mask scenes were unsettling. The ending was a bit rough around the edges, and I think it could have been just a little more coherent. But all in all, a very good film. I think this could have made a great 6-part series with a bigger scope and a bigger budget. That's a mark of a. There's something in it. We say that all the time, where it's like, man, it can be good or bad to be like wanting more like that.
Right. It makes me nervous too to think like, would I want more of this? And like another movie, I feel like I would, but I honestly don't know if I'd want like a series of this show.
If it was done like this, maybe, and like different, but yeah, it'd be hard
it'd be like devs or something. Like I feel like they would just they would get too into like the tech side of it.
Did you finally watch Devs?
No, I didn't watch all of it.
Ah, you bitch.
So I know.
But no, you're right though. You're right, because
like
Devs, Devs is good. It's really fucking good, but it's like it hits hard at the beginning and it hits hard at the end, and then like the middle arc is just pretty boring. And if they cut out all the middle, tightened it up, and made one long 2.5 hour movie, fucking incredible.
It could have. That's the whole thing. That's kind of what I mean. It's like it's weird because we do this podcast for a long time, and every time I like think about it, I'm like, oh, this movie, like most movies, I'm like, would be cool to get like the 6-part series. But then it's like, oh no, that's like.
Well, I'm just glad
not obviously, but it's like.
Well, having the constraints of being a little bit smaller is nice, but I'm just glad we live in an era where it's like we are getting more limited series. I mean, you were talking about The Fall of the House of Usher, and I'm glad we can tell these more long-form stories. Like, I mean, I even saw an interview with David Fincher recently where he was talking about, like, oh, this is the space to be in. When he was talking, it was years ago, but he was talking about, like...
Mindhunter.
Yeah, he was talking about, before Mindhunter, even when he was talking about, like, Netflix's first show, House of Cards, he's like, oh, this is like, the way, because it's like you can do what you can with cinema, but more long-form. And if done right, I'm just glad we live in that era where it's a possibility, because 10, 15 years ago, it would be unthinkable to be like, this would be better as a show. It'd be like, fuck no, wouldn't. Most shows suck.
Right.
Like,
No, right. No, I totally agree. But I think it's funny because the shit is like, what is that, cyclical or whatever? What's that word called? Where it's
cyclical?
like,
yeah, it like comes
cyclical,
around.
like, it just comes around because back in the day, it was like all movies were 3 hours plus. Like, no,
Yeah.
like every
Well,
movie made was like, you know, it's
I'm
like
dying to
made
go.
like a 6-hour movie. That's just normal. That was
That's
like
just
what
how it
we
is.
did.
All movies were like, 3 hours, which I'm dying to go see. I'm going to go see Killers of the Flower Moon hopefully this weekend, and it's a 3.5 hour runtime. So I got to prepare my bladder for it. You know,
Yeah,
I'm going to bring like a piss
anything
cup.
before. Yeah,
And I'm going to just bring like something I can hook up to my leg or something and not get arrested.
I think that's the future, man. It's like you need like a pause. Everyone
Bring
needs,
back intermissions, baby. Like if your movie is like 2.5 hour plus, give it an intermission.
I wonder if they'll do. I mean, Hateful Eight had an intermission, so I wonder if they'll do that.
Yeah, Hateful Eight did. Well, and that was Hateful Eight's an interesting one because that came out as a movie, and then they recut it as a 4-part miniseries.
Well,
which
and that like
worked really well.
I know that is a cool idea where it's like it would be cool. I mean, I know that it's the finite money and then like all the restrictions and like getting a movie made is like it's an incredible feat. And it would be cool though if like perfect world you could make your movie and then a movie is almost like the preview to like the movie's the first episode and then you could make like a 6-part.
Yeah,
you know,
honestly though,
cool.
right? It's like they've kept talking because I mean we're talking about Mike Flanagan. They originally were going to be like, I mean I guess that's kind of what they try to do with like Marvel and stuff, where it's like, oh, the movie ties into the show, ties into the movie, but then they got too up their own butt about it. But it's just like one coherent story or something. They talked about doing the Dark Tower that way, is what I mentioned originally. It's like they were going to do a show and then like the one movie because like the 4th book is all flashback, and so they're going to do that a movie or whatever. But yeah, man, I don't know. Movies are cool. Horror movies are great, and Possessor was fucking dope.
It was great.
I'm really glad. I wish my wife would have watched it because I think she would have liked it. And so, and I told her, you know, I'll watch it again one day for sure.
Yeah,
and
you got.
and she'll watch it with me.
I could see her liking this a lot. Victoria liked it, so
She likes
you know,
she likes gratuitous sex and violence, and
So,
like a
right.
sleek looking modern movie like this, she'll be into.
Yeah.
She was bummed because I told her how violent Terrifier 2 was, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds cool." I'm like, "Yeah." Like,
Yeah. She hasn't seen Terrifier 2 yet? Oh man.
I know.
It's funny because like I don't know, it's weird. I find this movie more violent than Terrifier 2, but that I
Well,
guess
it's violent and different. Like,
because it's right. It's all fake. but
yeah,
it's like, I love
Terrifier is more gory.
it. Yeah, sure.
This
yeah.
movie feels more like violent, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally.
So anyway, that's all I got to say about it. I mean, I could sit and talk about
but-
fucking more horror movies and stuff.
I know
but
we're gonna in November, bud.
We're gonna button it up.
Let these nice people go home.
I know. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the movie and the episode, and thank you for voting. Come watch the movies. We got one more vote next week, and then we're coming on the home stretch to Halloween. We got still a lot of a lot of cool horror movies to look
this is
forward
our
to.
third. This is our third podcast.
Yeah, because we did Dracula.
wow.
We did Dracula, and then
Bram Stoker's.
and then Tales from the Hood. Yeah, and then this.
Oh God, I don't want it to end, man. I want to keep going.
Well,
Keep
it's
this
like
month-
all a blur. I'm
month
already
going
like,
strong.
it's the 20th, and I'm like, oh man, we're getting
Yeah, I
there
guess
already.
that's true. It's, the 20th already. Damn. Well, tonight's
then
Maniac. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys out there in podcast land have watched it.
Yeah, go watch Maniac. Both of them. This is the one back-to-back remakes that we wanted to do. See how they stand up. So yeah, it should be fun. So go check those out, and then obviously we'll talk about them at the end of the month. Everyone, thanks for coming to the Reddit. Check out the Patreon.
I know we've been getting a lot of participation. It's fantastic. I love you guys. Keep it going. We're coming on. We'll get the Reddit is where we are mainly active.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
come to the Reddit
comment.
and post on there because it's like
we try to get to everybody and comment back. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Check it out. So okay, bye now.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Good night.
Patreon for life.
Yeah, for life.
Patreon, please.
Okay, see ya.
All right. Bye.